What do you reckon?
I think kind of Tom's relatively spot on there. I mean, politics isn't all about presentation, but my word, presentation matters a lot, doesn't it? And there is no doubt that Rishi Sunak showed kind of his slickness last night, his presentational skill. There is no doubt about that, and managed in many ways, I think helped by the fact that he was in the middle podium, to kind of dominate some of the debate. Clearly, lots of the discussion was about taxation. He's been Chancellor for the last 2.5 years. It's very easy for him to be across all the detail, even if he's having to defend the government's records. I think Penny Mordaunt didn't have a great night, in the sense that her main argument is that she's very good at these things. And actually, in the end, maybe because she played it too safe, wasn't, I wouldn't say, very good. Tom Tugendhat had his moments. He was quite funny at times, wasn't he? I thought that Kevin Badenoch, though, actually, in many ways, did quite well, and she would have won some fans last night in terms of kind of the approach that she took. As for Liz Truss, I mean, this is her biggest obstacle. She's, frankly, a bit stilted. She's a bit wooden. She's not terribly charismatic, and that's going to be difficult. But as I say, politics is not necessarily all about presentation, and we saw the big policy divide last night on this issue of taxation, and there is no doubt that the kind of two of the front runners, i.e. Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, are on very different pages.
They really are, aren't they? Which gives the Tory party people a choice, a very clear choice,
and that's why,
which may be a good thing.
And that's why I wouldn't, irrespective of the fact that, you know, the Snap poll last night put Liz bottom of the list, Liz Truss will still be a leading contender in all of this because of that divide. There are a lot of Conservatives who have not liked the government's economic policy, i.e. they've not liked Rishi Sunak's economic policy, and they would like to see taxes cut, and they will back Liz Truss because of all of that. But in the end, what we're seeing is a divided party here, and it's not just on that. I mean, there's some of the personal attacks we saw last night, whether it was Tom Tugendhat suggesting with some personal conversations that Rishi Sunak was only doing what Boris Johnson wanted him to do, or whether it was on the trans issue. Clearly, there were really deep personal issues. We've seen an awful lot of briefing in the newspapers, personal attacks on the candidates, and there is this sense that it's going to be difficult for this party to unite after this process. Very, very difficult indeed.
What do you think, Charlie?
Broadly in line with that perspective, I think the allure of Penny Mordaunt was that she isn't well known. Nobody's really seen her on this stage before. She's kind of come out of the wilderness and shocked the party and I think the nation by taking this early second place in the race. And I think she was sort of found out last night in many areas. We've heard comments, the briefing that Darren's mentioned in the papers and in the broadcasting areas as well. We had Lord Frost slamming Penny Mordaunt, saying that she wasn't across her brief. And then we've heard others saying that she was quite lazy. And we saw last night, I think we saw a bit of that, the lack of detail, not a lot of coverage on some of the topics. A bizarre moment when she said that of our 180 best innovations, the NHS is using none of them. Now, I mean, the NHS uses the internet, it uses water, it uses all sorts of, internal heating, etc. I think it's the case that she might have read a briefing that said that the company 180 Innovations wasn't involved in the NHS, misread it, and then spoke it live on television.
No, so she got it totally wrong.
I think completely wrong. And that, I think, reveals a broader weakness with Penny Mordaunt, a lack of experience, and what we've heard in some of the briefings, not a lot of control over her brief. Her capacity to actually speak the government line has been missing, and I think that was revealed last night. In terms of who is the most impressive, I think Kimi Badenoch has been termed as the insurgent candidate a lot this time. 42 years old, relatively inexperienced through her cabinet position, her ministerial position, but she's unique. She has an alternative perspective from the rest of the party, and I think that shone through the most.